In my experience, people who try to be perfect are the unhappiest people in the world, and they're almost always the loneliest too. When you try to be perfect, you have entered a race that you can't win. You can't even complete it. There is no finishing line. The finishing line keeps moving. So when you're in a race to be thinner, happier, richer, more successful, you can't complete that race. You can't win it. And instead of thinking, oh, I'm reaching my goals, you feel intense dissatisfaction. Here's the truth: the way you feel about everything is down to the pictures you make in your head and the words you say to yourself. And guess what is so great? You can change those pictures anytime. You can change those words. Every thought you think, every word you say becomes a blueprint that your mind, body, and psyche use everything at their disposal to make real. Thoughts are things. What you speak and think and say without realizing your mind is working so hard to make that your reality, even if it's super negative. You know, I see parents all the time who say things like, I'll be happy when my kid sleeps through the night. I'll be happy when my kid's out of diapers. I'll be happy when my kid is walking, feeding themselves, going to school. And they spend their whole child's life looking at the next bit to be happy, when you should be thinking, wow, I wish every stage took 3 times as long. You waste your amazing life wishing it away for the next bit. Because happiness is not a destination you arrive at, it's the journey you're on. It's an inside job. Do not farm out, I'll be happy when, because there is no terminal to get to called happiness. Happiness is the journey you're on now. Perfectionists come in all shapes and sizes, and they're often very good at hiding their inner drive to be perfect. And there's one thing that drives them all, an inner belief that says, I'm not enough, I'm less than. If I'm less than, and I can come across as perfect, I'll be more than. You know, my neighbors always say to me, wow, you have so many famous clients. Are they damaged by fame? I'm like, no, actually no. Damaged people are attracted to fame. They have a belief I'm so damaged, but if I'm famous, rich, gorgeous, amazing, I'll be perfect. But you see what happens when damaged people try to be perfect? It actually damages them more. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to be infallible. You just need to be enough. And when you let the fact in that you are enough, instead of trying so hard to be perfect, which you can never achieve, when you let in being enough, changes your life. So let it in that you're enough right now, because that's the truth about you.
And one of the things I say to people, don't discount yourself. I didn't do what I'm doing now for 14 years because I didn't believe being labeled educable mentally retarded, failing in the 5th grade, put back to the 4th grade, and no college education, that I can compete with people with PhDs and MBAs. And so for 14 years, a lot of people say they have no regrets. The biggest regret that I have, that I disapproved of myself for 14 years. And then, there's a coincidence, it's God's way of staying anonymous. I went to a training and a guy was speaking. And Mike Williams had already said, hey, Brownie, you know why you go see Zig Ziglar and Dr. Robert Schuller and Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote The Power of Positive Thinking? I said, because I like the message. He said, no. He said, you like to help people. That's in you. You're always holding court here at the radio station. And you got a funny laugh, man. I said, I do? He said, yes. And so he just kept saying that to me. And I was at an event, and a guy was speaking, and it just stopped like a spell came over him. He said, there's somebody here who should be doing this. He said, I do it because I make a lot of money. And he said, I love to make money. He said, but you want to change lives, and you can make money too, young man, young lady. And he said, you know who you are. And then he paused again. He said, the reason I'm standing up here holding this microphone and you are seated out there, I represent the thoughts you have rejected for yourself. That hit me right between the eyes. I began to cry. At that time, this is in 1980. Wow. I went outside. I called Mike Williams. The telephone call was a dime then. I said, Mike. He said, yes. I said, I'm not rejecting myself anymore. Do you hear me? He said, Brownie, calm down. Listen to me, man. I'm not rejecting myself anymore.
For several years, I gave myself a way out.
When you were 300
When I was,
pounds?
when I was 300 pounds, when I was, all the way up till I was 24 years old, I would climb a mountain, I'd fall back down. I start climbing, I fall back down for the first 24 years of my life. I went to my first Hell Week, my second Hell Week, and then my third Hell Week came in SEAL training, and the CEO, Captain Bowen, looked at me. I'm on crutches, I'm all jacked up. He says, hey, this is your last time you're gonna go through buds. This is it. I had several stress fractures. I had double pneumonia. I was jacked up, and he gave me a few months to heal. And he said, this is your last time going through. I shouldn't even let you go back through.
Wow.
I started Navy SEAL training with stress fractures. Stress fractures,
That's
not
hard to
shin
finish.
splints.
That's hard to finish.
Stress fractures. Starting the hardest training, arguably the hardest training in the world with stress fractures. And this is when I started to not put a cap on the body if the mind is there. Every morning I would wake up at 3:30 in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, go to my dive cage, go in there before anybody saw me. I'd get duct tape, and I would tape from my forefoot all the way up to the mid of my calf, and I would put 2 black socks on. And so I ran not using the pivot.
Oh my gosh.
And I ran my hip flexors. So for the first 45 minutes to an hour, I was in absolute excruciating pain. But what motivated me through that whole process was the fact that this kid came from that. I'm in the hardest training in the world, in the worst shape of my entire life. What if I can graduate amongst these studs?
Wow.
All these guys around me are studs. They're stallions. They're gladiators in my class. They're all healthy. Most of them. They're not broken like this. They may have some, everybody's sick going through that training.
Yeah.
But if I can graduate, it would change everything for me. If I can start the hardest training in the world, broken, and graduate. So my mind fed off of that. You are now, from the weakest man, you are now the hardest man to ever live. If you can do this. If you can do this. Life is one big mind game.
Yeah.
And you're playing it with yourself. Is it true? I don't care. It got me through the hardest training, starting out broken. Where most people quit, I had just started.
Wow.
And when you take that mindset and you learn to flip that around, that's what made me powerful. And my body followed. And 3 months later, my stress fractures were healed by running on them.
If I want something, I go into the future in my brain, which is powerful, and I visualize exactly what I want. So I'm there, I'm in my future. And then I think about every single thing I need to do to make that happen, and every single thing that could stop that from happening or what I need to avoid. Then I go right back. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like I was just in the future, thinking about watching myself on my television network. So because I do that, that means I have to think what would be the worst case scenario, and then I have to think what would be the best case scenario. And then I eliminate every single thing that I think could happen, which I call art detecting. And then I put everything and every single attitude and person around me in my vision that's gonna make me get to what I want. And also, I try to get the people around me to think about the same exact vision. So you can inspire people and all that energy is focused on one thing that they can visualize in their head, then it becomes a tangible reality. And I know that to be a fact because it's happened. It's a fact for me. So I continue to do that. I know that anything I can imagine, I can make happen. So I am really careful about how small my thoughts are because I don't feel like wasting time in a 24-hour day making this much. And I could spend the same amount of time with the same amount of energy if I art detect it right and had this much. And with this much, I can help so many more people that I love.
So few people who could succeed actually do succeed because they've given up on learning, study, and growth. LSG, learning, study, and growth. So The neurobiologists and neuropsychologists will tell us that the human brain craves learning, and it craves curiosity, and it craves novelty. And unfortunately, a lot of us, we learned in school, but the moment we left school and walked out into the world, we've given up on our personal commitment to growth. And so I'm inviting you with great love and respect to reclaim the curiosity you once knew as a child when you were overflowing with awe and wonder. You see, our natural state is the way we're as children. We're built to be curious. We're built to be passionate. We're built to be full of energy. We're built to question things. You look at a little child and it's like, Mommy, Daddy, why? You look at an adult and they've contracted their curiosity. They've given up on seeing the magic in the world. They no longer grow. And so the mindset I want you to start practicing, because no idea works unless you do the work. To install a core belief, you just practice it until it becomes automatic. That's how you actually get to change your psychology. And so the mindset I invite you to start practicing each day is what I call the 2x, 3x mindset. To double your income and your impact, triple your investment in two core areas. Number one, your personal mastery, and number two, your professional capability. And how do you do that? Again, you do it through learning, study, and growth. So I guess what I'm suggesting to you is you look at most of the population and you commit yourself to what I call anti-majority behavior. If you want to have a great life, a soaring life, a creative life, a productive life, a ultra prosperous life, look at what most people do and do the opposite. So most people, what they do is they love consuming as opposed to creating. We live in a civilization of consumers. Buy this, eat this, do this, consume this. But the top 5%, those who play in the rare air of world class, are not consumers, they're creators.
Have you ever thought of failing your way to success? Think about that for a moment. Do you know that anyone that enjoys any kind of success fails their way there? That's right, they do. I want you to think of this for a moment. See this little light here? Someone gave me this as a gift. This is a replica of the light that Edison built. And you know, he spent a long time before he got this thing to glow. He really did. And he started off because he had an image of it in his mind. But every time he tried, he failed. And he failed 3,000 times, it's been said. Now, I've never really talked to Edison, so I don't know if that's accurate, but I have an idea it is. 3,000 failures. Now, a reporter asked him one time how he felt about failing 3,000 times. He said, I didn't fail 3,000 times. He's there with 3,000 steps to get to where I'm going. Do you know, if I were to tell you all the sad stories about it's got me to where I am, I would really spoil your week. And there's been some real sad stories. I think it might even make me cry again. But I've had so many failures that I wouldn't even want to guess at it. I've blown everything I had 3 different times. I never let it bother me much. Well, one time I did. In fact, I was mentioning it to Scott Edwards the other day, just yesterday, I think. I blew it. I lost everything. When I bet on me, I bet the farm, and if I miss, then the whole thing goes up. And I guess I just wasn't ready to handle it. I sat in the house in darkness. I didn't want anybody to talk to me. Just leave me alone. And I sat in the living room in the dark. I had the curtains closed, and I sat there for almost a month, feeling really sorry for Bob. And then one day I got an idea, and I went and I got 2 recordings, long playing records by Earl Nightingale. He had narrated the entire book, As a Man Thinketh, by James Allen. And I got those 2 records out and I started to play them. And before they were over, I had the curtains open. I went downtown Toronto and I bought myself a brand new Cadillac. I thought, what would sort of inspire me? I thought I should get a new car. So I went and got one. And you know, I have found that every time I failed, I moved closer to the goal. You see, if you knew how to do it now, you'd be going sideways. When you're going after a goal, you're going ahead. And because you're going where you've never been, you're going to make mistakes. You don't know it all. You have perfection within you, and the objective of life is to bring that perfection to the surface. That's exactly what this guy did. Well, you're going to make a lot of mistakes bringing that to the surface. Those mistakes are steps to where you're going. I often tell salespeople that are afraid to make a call just to get out there and make a call. And their objective isn't to sell. Their objective is just make the call. If you make the call and you're afraid and you do it, you're successful. You've accomplished what you want to do. You made a call. And after you get comfortable making those calls, then you can start to polish up your presentation, and odds are pretty good you'll start making sales. And if you keep polishing up your presentation and working at getting better, you're going to master a thing called selling. But if you think that you're going to enjoy great success and it's just one win after another, you're kidding yourself. It just doesn't happen. I don't even know anyone that's pulled that kind of a deal off. If they did, they were cheating or lying.